obviously a nice ball game that we clearly needed. Monty got us into it a little bit. I think the story was the back end of it, and Jamie Arnold coming in and neutralizing them a little bit. And it's a good match for him. They have clearly a ton of left-handed bats, and he did a nice job navigating it. But the other part of that is they do have some good right-handed hitters in there as well. So you have to be able to calibrate and operate, like commanding your stuff to both, because there's not a string of one that you're going to see throughout the course of an outing. I thought he did a really nice job, and we could tell there at the end it looked like that was about enough for him. And we had to get Benny Barrett out of there immediately, and then Doug, the best outing we've seen. We've seen him get out of some messes, but then for whatever reason, going back out and replicating what we've seen to get out of some trouble hasn't been as easy. And the guy came here and caught. So this is still new, and he's coming off an injury, and we see flashes, and today we saw a lot of flashes, and he sequenced things really well. Slider had great spin. His fastball, clearly the velocity helps, and that makes the slider that much more difficult. Tibbs had some very nice at-bats all weekend. I think the base running in the first inning gets lost in the later part of the game, where the base hit, avoiding the tag at second, and then Holbrook rolls the ball in the middle, the shortstop fields it, and Tibbs scores from second base. And when you put 4 on the board and they put 3, one of them is going to be the difference, and it's inconsequential as to which one it is, but they all really mattered. And I thought his base running there was key. And Diamez had some good at-bats today, and I think he had the one that put us up 4-3, I believe, after they tied it. So that was a well-played game. Still, the one throw got away at some point, and Nander just didn't go in and get the one out of his glove after making the incredible diving play. But a much-needed win, and you guys, everybody knows that. And it's just good to see some of those guys give you really clean, good performances out of the bullpen.
After so many one-run losses, what do you think it could do for the guys to just come up on the right side?
Well, it sure helps. Like, the confidence is a piece of this. But we've talked about it right in here. The execution, regardless of what's going on, is the key. And the difference today was the late game execution and the pitch sequencing. And somebody's got to go out there and grab hold of the game and finish the game. And we saw it today. So that's part of it. But you have to give yourself that chance too. So it may not get all the way to that individual. There's got to be some guys that can go in and manage things in the 5th, 6th, 7th inning to eventually get to a point where you're closing out a one-run game. And our defense, it is not the most helpful at times. There's plays that aren't recorded as errors that we need to make. And part of that is, I think, adaptation is moving around a little bit, and guys that may not be quite cut out for some of the stuff, and they're learning and trying and grinding and competing, and that's all you can ask. But yeah, to win one of those, it does go a long way.
Doug's stuff is really premium, and you just mentioned you guys have needed someone to close the game out. What made the difference in this outing for Doug as opposed to some of the others where it's not finished?
Just command. I don't think he's gone out there without the velocity and stuff. But you still have to command it, and he really kept the slider in the bottom of the zone. That slider's good, but when he leaves it up a little bit, I think it flattens out, and those have been some of the balls that have been hit hard. And then, the traffic, if you're not commanding it and you have a wild pitch, like first and second to third is a whole different situation. And, he's had that a little bit. So it's as plain and simple as the command. The mechanics of it, I don't think changes. The mentality and keeping it simple and staying with your poise and your stuff and staying in your legs and pitching like he trains to pitch. That's the difference. Now to walk out there in this situation and do it, that's a huge step. And now we have to repeat it, whether it's the 9th inning or the 5th or the 7th or whenever it is. That's what it should look like.
We talked yesterday about lefties getting to the glove side against lefties. It seemed like Jamie did that pretty well today. Just how pleased were you to see him pitch the way he did today?
Loved it. And you guys can probably see more of it than from my vantage point. But, we have such an emphasis on where the catcher sets up and why and how, and we should be able to execute those. And I think against that group, especially at this field, like when you have a shorter right field to deal with, like if you can throw that good fastball away like he did, it helps a lot. And our plays big to center and left center, and today the wind was knocking it down and felt like a little bit. So if you're ever going to do it, man, today was a really good day to do it. And you got a lot of lefties, so he settled in and did a nice job. I think he threw some decent sliders too, but yeah, it was more the fastball.
That consistency is more what you saw from Jamie in fall and preseason, I think. And
100%.
And just how good was it to see him get back there, and how much of just the lessons he's learned throughout this year do you think has helped him get back to what he was today?
Man, it's a lot, Brett. It's a ton of learning. And most of these high school guys that come in, they haven't relieved before. They start and warm up and start, and that's how they do it. So learning how to throw out of the bullpen is an art in itself, and how to warm up. You're not going to go out in right field and run around and long toss. You're down confined in that corner, and you have to be able to figure it out. And initially starting, like sometimes we start the younger guys and give them a role that's a little more familiar, but clearly, you know, we got to a point where that wasn't enough. And we thought, with, you know, Wyatt Whitaker and some of the guys in Kirkland, like kind of there with Oxford and the guys later, might be easier for the freshmen. But he's had some really good outings out of the pen. Now, it hasn't been like that every time, but he's starting to show the ability to kind of manage it. And you know, the fatigue of warming up in the pen and not waiting a week till you get up and go hard again is something that any of the young guys have to learn.
Last time you broke the losing streak, you had to play again the next day. You guys get the day off tomorrow. Does that do anything for you? Does it not matter one bit?
It's nice to sit on a good vibe. It really is. Like sometimes when you have to sit on it and it hasn't been going great, you just fester a little bit. And so it is nice to kind of regroup a little bit. And you know, you got an 8 o'clock game, and a 3 and an 11. These things, especially when you're the home team, like we're here at 7:30, 8 o'clock to start this day, and that's unusual. I don't know is this the third or fourth one of these we've had? Maybe fourth. They're not easy, and it's almost easier being the visitors because the timeline for the visitors is always later. So tomorrow will be really nice for the fellas.
Did you, in terms of, this is probably the hardest thing most of these guys have ever gone through on baseball. What have you seen from their, just when they show up at the ballpark each day?
They're still engaged and they work at it. And it's hard. It's tough to go through this. And you have so many young guys that are just trying to figure out what this is like at this level, and that's a piece of it too. And then we're all new. So some of the things that come up that we talk about and work on and drill, sometimes it takes a while for them to actually feel it and see it in the games. So they're 100% into it. Now it's tough because nobody likes going through this. I've gone through it really 2 times in my career, and it's the teaching and the messaging and making sure you're pulling some positives out, because even when you lose a game, there's somebody out there that did something well, and we try to pull that out and make sure that we're aware, make them aware that we noticed some of the good things, and clearly constantly try to clean up the other stuff. So they're eager to learn and work. It's just difficult at times when you've gone through these things.
Diamas and Max seem to start looking like themselves a little bit more each day. Just how big of a piece are they? And I guess, do you think the last couple of weeks for them have kind of been like going through preseason again after they missed so much time?
No question. Those are tough injuries. Like when you have hand things, like the bat, it just takes a while to like get back and feel what it should feel like when you're holding the bat and when you're swinging the bat. And then you're thrown into this. I mean, this is tricky on anybody, not to mention when you're almost rehabbing your way through acclimation again. And gosh, Diamas, like he was hitting 400 plus until he hurt his hand. So you know it's in there, and all of a sudden you're starting to see like the at-bats revert back a little bit to what we saw out of the gate and at TCU and when he was leading off. And I would like to get him back in there. It just, we were giving away so many at-bats that finally I just felt like, let's just get some of our more experienced guys. Let's just get our bats up there and sort it out. And then Holbrook, I mean, the guy hit 330 in the Big 12 conference. Like, he's done it. But when you battle the hamate and then you battle the hamstring, like, is he 100%? He's going to tell you he's 100%. Now, when did that happen, or is he? I don't know. But you're starting to see him, like, settle in there a little bit more. He was very demonstrative with all of his mechanisms to get himself ready to hit, and I think he's starting to kind of settle back down a little bit. And I still don't think we've quite seen like his true capabilities, but it's coming.
With Tibbs at the leadoff spot, it almost feels like having that power profile. See it in MLB a lot, guys at the top of the order. What have you liked from him at the 1 hole?
Leading off every game with a hit. You know, and that has not been my style. Like, but you know, you'd like to have some runners, table setters up there to give the middle of the lineup chances, and knowing that guys at the top can run, maybe it requires them to pitch the middle a little bit differently. But we, quite frankly, don't have that right now. So, again, at some point, let's just go with it. You know, the power's there, and he's probably only going to lead off like the first inning. So then after that, like, how does it play out? And it was nice yesterday to see it. All right, you're back to the top of the order, and here comes Tibbs with a chance to win it. So, I mean, there's some really good parts of it, but his at-bats, being quality, has been the biggest piece. If they're not good, then there's not much to it. But he goes up there and does his thing.
Let's do one more.